Have you ever experienced something strange in your body and then brushed it off like it was nothing? It's easy to dismiss these moments, especially as we get older. We tell ourselves it's probably just part of aging, a little fatigue, or maybe even dehydration. But what if these passing symptoms were actually warning signs of something far more serious? This video is about something most seniors have heard of but very few truly understand: mini strokes, also called transient ischemic attacks. These events might seem minor at the time, but they're the body's way of sounding an alarm. They can happen fast, pass quickly, and leave no lasting damage, but they should never be ignored. Because what many don't realize is that a mini stroke is often the first and only warning you'll get before a major, life-changing stroke happens. Stay with me until the end, because by the time we finish, you'll have a clear, practical understanding of what to look out for, how to respond, and why these signs matter more than most people realize. This isn't just about avoiding danger. It's about taking control of your health, understanding your body's messages, and living each day with greater confidence and awareness. Now let's get started. Sign 1. Sudden dizziness or loss of balance. Another sign that often slips under the radar is sudden dizziness or feeling off balance. This isn't the kind of lightheadedness you might feel after standing up too quickly or missing a meal. This is a deep, disorienting kind of dizziness that seems to come out of nowhere and makes you feel like the room is spinning, or that your legs suddenly forgot how to hold you. If you've ever had to grab a chair or wall just to steady yourself, even for a moment, and couldn't quite explain why, it might not have been clumsiness. It could have been a mini stroke. The part of your brain that controls balance and coordination is extremely sensitive to blood flow. So when a mini stroke briefly cuts off circulation to that area, the results can be immediate. Your sense of direction may falter, your gait might become unsteady, or you could feel like your body just isn't responding the way it normally does. Some people even experience vertigo, where it feels like they're spinning even when sitting still. The danger here is that these symptoms are so easily confused with fatigue, dehydration, or simply having an off day. Let me tell you about Carol, a 74-year-old woman who prided herself on staying active. One afternoon, while walking through the grocery store, she felt a wave of dizziness hit her like a wall. Her legs felt wobbly, and she had to cling to her shopping cart to avoid falling. It passed after a minute, and she finished her shopping. But something about it didn't sit right. She mentioned it to her doctor, and further evaluation revealed she had experienced a transient ischemic attack. Thanks to her decision to speak up, she was able to take preventive steps and avoid what could have been a devastating stroke down the line. What makes this sign so tricky is how quickly it can be brushed off. Most people don't want to cause a fuss, especially if the feeling goes away quickly. But balance is one of those things we take for granted until it's gone. When your body suddenly can't keep itself steady, it's a clear signal that something isn't working the way it should. And if it happens without any clear reason, even just once, it's worth taking seriously. Remember, your body doesn't make mistakes without reason. If you suddenly feel dizzy, lose your balance, or have to sit down to keep from falling, especially if this happens while you're just standing or walking normally, it's not something to ignore. It could be your brain's way of telling you that it's under stress. And if that stress is a mini stroke, the sooner you act, the better your chances of preventing something worse. Don't wait until the next time. One episode is enough. Sign 2, brief trouble speaking or understanding words. Another subtle but serious sign of a mini stroke is when you suddenly find it difficult to speak clearly or understand what others are saying. It might come on out of nowhere. You're in the middle of a sentence and suddenly your words feel jumbled or slurred. Or you might be listening to someone talk and their words sound garbled or confusing, almost like they're speaking a different language. These episodes often last only a few minutes, and because they fade quickly, many people shrug them off. But these brief lapses in communication are not normal. Forgetfulness or momentary brain fog. They are signals that something has interrupted your brain's ability to process language, and that could mean a mini stroke. You see, our ability to speak and understand speech is controlled by specific areas of the brain. When a mini stroke temporarily cuts off blood flow to those areas, even for just a short time, it can scramble the brain's signals. That's why you may find yourself suddenly unable to form words, say the wrong word, without realizing it, or feel like your mouth just isn't cooperating when you try to speak. On the other hand, you might hear someone talking to you and find that their words just don't make sense, even though your hearing is fine. This kind of disruption can be frightening, especially if it's never happened before. But too often, people try to explain it away. They say they were just tired, or maybe they were distracted. Some even laugh it off, "I had a little brain freeze," and go about their day as if nothing happened. But your brain is not trying to play tricks on you. It's trying to warn you. Let me share a real story. Diane, a 69-year-old retired school teacher, was on the phone with her daughter when she suddenly realized she couldn't get the words out. She knew what she wanted to say, but it felt like her tongue wasn't working. She paused, took a breath, and within a minute or two, her speech returned to normal. She almost didn't mention it to anyone, thinking maybe it was stress, but she decided to tell her doctor during a regular checkup. That decision may have saved her life. Tests revealed a history of tiny blockages in her brain, and her doctor immediately put her on a prevention plan. Without that plan, the next event might not have been so forgiving. The challenge with mini strokes is that their symptoms can be so fleeting, so easy to ignore, that we don't recognize the seriousness until it's too late. When it comes to your ability to speak or comprehend language, any sudden change, no matter how brief, is reason enough to act. Because once the brain's language centers are affected, it's not just about the words. It's about how your brain is functioning as a whole. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Sign 3, sudden vision changes in one or both eyes. If you ever experience a sudden change in your vision, whether it's blurry eyesight, seeing double, or complete loss of sight in one eye, it might be more than just a passing issue. Many people chalk it up to fatigue or a need for new glasses, especially as they get older. But a temporary change in vision can be one of the most overlooked signs of a mini stroke. And because the symptom often disappears as quickly as it comes on, it's easy to ignore. But your eyes are an extension of your brain. And when something changes in how you see the world, it could be a warning that your brain isn't getting the blood it needs. Mini strokes or transient ischemic attacks can affect different parts of the brain, including the areas that manage visual processing. That's why vision problems sometimes appear with no warning at all. You might suddenly see shadows where there are none, feel like a curtain has been pulled over one eye, or find it hard to focus on familiar objects. These changes don't always come with pain or discomfort, which makes them harder to take seriously in the moment. But whether it's both eyes or just one, a sudden shift in how you see deserves your full attention. Take, for instance, a man named Walter, who was 75 and still enjoyed his morning walks around the neighborhood. One morning, he noticed that everything on the left side of his vision was blurry, almost like he was looking through frosted glass. It lasted just a few minutes, and by the time he got back home, his vision was clear again. He almost didn't tell anyone, but thankfully his wife insisted he call the doctor. Tests later confirmed that Walter had experienced a mini stroke. Because he got help in time, doctors were able to adjust his medication and reduce the risk of a full-blown stroke in the future. What makes this sign so dangerous is how easy it is to dismiss. We're used to eye floaters, dry eyes, and the occasional blurry moment as we age. But a sudden, unexplained visual disturbance, especially if it lasts more than a few seconds, is something you should never ignore. Your vision is one of the most sensitive indicators of your brain's health, and when it changes quickly, it may be your brain's way of asking for help. In so many cases, people regret ignoring that weird little episode with their eyesight until a bigger event comes along. But the good news is that you don't have to wait for a major stroke to take action. Your body often gives you clues. You just have to know how to listen. And when it comes to your vision, even a small change can carry a big message. Sign 4, sudden numbness or weakness on one side of the body. One of the clearest and most common signs of a mini stroke is sudden numbness or weakness that affects one side of the body. It may come on quickly and disappear within minutes, which is exactly why so many people ignore it. You might feel your left arm go limp, or notice that your right leg isn't quite responding the way it should. It could even be something as subtle as your fingers feeling like they're asleep, or your facial muscles twitching or sagging for no clear reason. These aren't just random quirks of aging. They are serious warnings that something is happening inside your brain, and it demands attention. When a mini stroke occurs, it's typically caused by a temporary blockage in blood flow to the brain. And depending on where that blockage hits, you may lose function in very specific areas of your body. That's why the symptoms often appear on only one side. The brain's control over our limbs is split. Left brain controls the right side of the body, and the right brain controls the left. So if one side suddenly stops working properly, your brain is waving a red flag, telling you that something is interfering with its ability to communicate with the rest of your body. The scary part is how easily we talk ourselves out of concern. A man might wake up in the morning, feel his arm go numb, shake it a bit, and blame it on the way he slept. Or maybe he feels his leg give out for a moment while standing at the kitchen counter, chalking it up to fatigue or dehydration. These explanations may sound reasonable in the moment, but they can be dangerously misleading. The truth is, numbness or weakness that shows up suddenly and affects one side of your body is not normal, no matter your age. And it's not something to wait and see about. Whether it lasts 30 seconds or 10 minutes, it's your body's way of sounding the alarm. Ignoring that alarm could mean missing the window to prevent a major stroke that might leave permanent damage, or worse. Think about this. If you saw your neighbor's smoke detector go off, even for just a few seconds, would you shrug and say, "Oh, probably nothing"? No, you'd check for signs of fire, call for help if needed, and make sure everyone was safe. Your brain deserves that same kind of immediate care and caution. Numbness or weakness on one side of your body is your brain's smoke alarm. You don't have to panic, but you do have to act. Many seniors hesitate to speak up about these episodes, fearing they'll be seen as overreacting or bothersome. But there is nothing inconvenient about protecting your brain. In fact, the people around you, your children, your friends, even your doctors would rather you mention something that turns out to be nothing than say nothing at all and risk everything. Take, for example, Harold, a 72-year-old retired electrician who one morning noticed his right hand felt strangely weak. He dropped his coffee mug, brushed it off, and went about his day. The next morning it happened again. Only this time, he also noticed a slight sag on the right side of his mouth in the mirror. That got his attention. He went to the doctor that afternoon, and sure enough, tests showed he had experienced a mini stroke. His quick response meant doctors could treat the underlying issue, adjust his medications, and reduce his risk of a future stroke dramatically. The takeaway here is simple. When your body suddenly stops responding the way it normally does, especially on one side, it's time to stop, pay attention, and take action. Don't wait to see if it passes. Don't downplay it. Call your doctor or seek medical attention immediately. Your future self will thank you. Sign 5, sudden severe headache without a known cause. One of the most startling and easily dismissed warning signs of a mini stroke is the sudden onset of a severe headache, especially when there's no clear reason for it. This isn't your everyday tension headache or the kind you get when you haven't had enough water. This type of pain often feels sharp, intense, and unfamiliar, something that grabs your attention right away. It might come on fast and disappear just as quickly, but that doesn't mean it's harmless. In many cases, it's a signal that something has gone wrong with the blood vessels in your brain. You see, headaches can be tricky. Most of us have had them at some point in our lives, and as we get older, we sometimes accept them as part of the aging process. But a mini stroke can trigger a very specific type of headache, one that feels sudden and strange, sometimes described as a thunderclap headache because of how quickly and powerfully it appears. It might feel like it's centered on one side of your head, or you may feel pressure behind your eyes or across your forehead that doesn't resemble anything you've experienced before. What makes this sign dangerous is how often it's brushed aside. People say it's probably just sinus pressure, or maybe I didn't sleep well last night. And yes, those things can cause discomfort. But if you suddenly feel a sharp, intense headache that seems to come out of nowhere, especially if it's accompanied by other symptoms like vision changes, dizziness, or numbness, it could be your brain's way of sounding the alarm. Let me share a story with you. Larry, a 78-year-old former truck driver, had always been in pretty good health. One morning while reading the newspaper, he felt a sudden jolt of pain on the right side of his head. It stopped him mid-sentence. He stood up, walked around a bit, and the pain faded after a few minutes. He almost didn't mention it to his doctor. But later that week, he started noticing small balance issues and slurred speech. That's when he decided to get checked. It turned out Larry had experienced a mini stroke that first presented as that sudden, unexplained headache. The lesson here is simple. A headache that feels off deserves attention, especially if it's sudden, intense, or unlike anything you've had before. Your brain is a delicate organ, and pain is its way of telling you something is wrong. And while not every headache means a stroke is coming, the ones that stand out from your usual pattern, the ones that feel alarming, should never be ignored. Many people try to tough it out or wait for it to pass. They take a couple of aspirin, lie down, and hope for the best. But the body doesn't work that way by accident. When pain shows up out of the blue, it's worth asking, why now? And when that pain is centered in your head, it's especially important to listen. You don't have to live in fear, but you do need to stay alert. A mini stroke doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it starts with a headache, sharp, quick, and easy to overlook. But catching it early can mean the difference between a warning and a tragedy. Your health is worth that extra moment of caution. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 5 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Sign 6, sudden confusion or trouble thinking clearly. Have you ever found yourself suddenly confused about something you normally understand without a problem? Maybe you forgot where you were going in the middle of a familiar drive, or you stared at the TV remote wondering which button to press, even though you've used it 100 times before. If this kind of mental fog shows up suddenly, especially if it lifts just as fast, don't ignore it. Sudden confusion or difficulty thinking clearly is another important warning sign of a mini stroke, and one that many seniors overlook. The brain is responsible for processing all kinds of information: memory, decision-making, orientation, language. So when blood flow is temporarily blocked, even for a short time, the brain's ability to organize and respond can go haywire. You may feel disoriented, lose track of what you were doing, or even struggle to understand simple instructions. Some people say they feel like they're watching themselves from the outside, like their mind is clouded or disconnected. And yet, because this fog often fades quickly, it's easy to chalk it up to tiredness or just one of those days. But confusion is not something to take lightly. If you suddenly can't remember what you were just talking about, where you placed something you were holding seconds ago, or how to do something you've done hundreds of times, your brain may be trying to warn you. This kind of mental misfire, especially when it happens without explanation, can be one of the earliest clues that a mini stroke has occurred. Let me tell you about Helen, an 80-year-old grandmother who was in the middle of cooking dinner when she suddenly couldn't remember her favorite recipe. She stood staring at the ingredients, not sure what came next, even though she had made the dish for years. 10 minutes later, her mind cleared and everything seemed fine again. Her daughter convinced her to go to the doctor, and it turned out Helen had experienced a transient ischemic attack. Because she didn't ignore it, she was able to get treatment and avoid a more serious event. This kind of story is more common than you might think. Seniors are especially prone to downplaying confusion because they assume it's just part of getting older. But aging doesn't usually cause you to forget your own address or how to work the microwave. Those kinds of changes, when they come on suddenly, are red flags. And here's something else to consider. Confusion caused by a mini stroke doesn't always look dramatic. It may be subtle, like forgetting how to balance a checkbook or feeling overwhelmed by a simple task. You might even catch yourself repeating the same question or statement and not realizing you already said it. These small mental slips are worth paying attention to. If you ever feel like your brain just isn't working the way it normally does, even for a short time, don't dismiss it. Confusion may not be as obvious as slurred speech or numbness, but it's just as important. A mini stroke can sneak in quietly, disrupting your thinking without warning. And by the time you realize what happened, it may already be over. But your response to that moment, how seriously you take it, can determine what happens next. Sign 7, short-lived difficulty swallowing. You might not think twice about swallowing until one day you suddenly can't. Maybe it happens mid-meal, when a bite of food seems harder to get down than usual. Or maybe you take a sip of water and find yourself coughing, as though it went down the wrong pipe. When this happens once, you might assume you were distracted or eating too quickly. But when it comes on suddenly and without an obvious reason, even for just a moment, difficulty swallowing can be a warning sign of a mini stroke that should not be ignored. Swallowing is one of those everyday actions we don't usually pay attention to. But behind that simple motion is a complex coordination of muscles and nerves, all directed by the brain. So when a mini stroke briefly interrupts communication between the brain and throat, even for just a few seconds, it can cause that swallowing process to malfunction. You might feel like something is stuck in your throat, or that your body simply forgot how to do something it's done automatically your entire life. For example, let me tell you about Marvin, a 76-year-old who loved to enjoy a peanut butter sandwich with his afternoon coffee. One day during his usual routine, he found himself choking on a small bite of bread, not because it was too big or dry, but because it felt like his throat wouldn't respond. It startled him. He paused, took a deep breath, drank some water, and continued. It passed quickly, and he figured it was a fluke. But a week later, the same thing happened. That's when he decided to get checked. His doctor ran tests, and sure enough, Marvin had experienced not one, but two mini strokes. And if he hadn't paid attention the second time, the third might have been much worse. These kinds of moments, brief, sudden swallowing problems, can easily be mistaken for nothing. But the brain controls even the most automatic functions, and when those automatic functions suddenly don't work the way they should, even for a minute, your body is telling you something is wrong. Some people experience a feeling of tightness in the throat. Others feel like they're choking on air or water. And because these sensations pass so quickly, they're rarely brought up at doctor visits. But they should be. Because when the swallowing reflex is disrupted, it's not just uncomfortable, it can be dangerous. Food or liquid going down the wrong way can lead to aspiration, pneumonia, or even choking. And more importantly, if it's a sign of a mini stroke, it may be your last warning before a major event occurs. So here's the key: don't dismiss these incidents. If you ever feel like swallowing becomes suddenly difficult, especially during a calm, normal moment, it's worth noting. Write it down, talk to your doctor, and make sure it's on record. You don't have to panic, but you do need to pay attention. Because when your body gives you a signal, even a small one, it's doing it for a reason. Mini strokes don't always show up the way we expect. They don't always come with dramatic collapses or slurred speech. Sometimes it's just a bite of food that won't go down, a sip of water that sends you coughing, or a throat that forgets how to respond. But behind those quiet symptoms may be a loud warning from your brain, and recognizing it could make all the difference. Sign 8. Sudden tingling or burning sensations. Have you ever felt a strange tingling sensation come over part of your body, like pins and needles crawling across your skin, but without any clear cause? Or maybe you experienced a sudden burning feeling in your face, arm, or leg that came and went in a flash. These odd sensations are often written off as circulation issues or nerves acting up, especially by older adults who are used to their bodies changing over time. But when these feelings come on suddenly and affect one area, especially just one side, they can be subtle signs that a mini stroke has occurred. The nerves in your body rely on the brain to interpret sensations correctly. When a mini stroke disrupts the brain's communication with a specific region, your skin might start to feel wrong. That could mean numbness, tingling, or even a burning sensation that makes no sense in the moment. And because these symptoms can vanish within minutes, many people brush them off as just something weird. But the truth is, these fleeting changes in how you feel physical touch or temperature could be the brain's early warning call. Think about Patricia, an 81-year-old woman who loved crocheting in her spare time. One afternoon, as she sat by the window with her yarn and hook, she noticed her left hand felt strange, tingly, and slightly warm, almost like it was falling asleep. She shook it out, assumed she had just been sitting oddly, and went back to her project. But the feeling returned the next morning while holding her coffee mug. This time it was stronger and spread up her forearm. That's when she called her son. By the time she got to the clinic, the sensation had disappeared, but her brain scans showed she had experienced a transient ischemic attack. What Patricia went through isn't rare. In fact, many seniors feel these symptoms and assume it's a pinched nerve, arthritis, or even a side effect of medication. While those are certainly possible, it's the suddenness and unfamiliar nature of the sensation that should raise a red flag. If you're fine 1 minute and the next you feel tingling, burning, or numbness in one limb or on one side of your face, that's not something to ignore. And it's not just about discomfort. These sensations could be affecting your ability to grip objects, use utensils, walk steadily, or even feel the temperature of bathwater properly. Any one of these could lead to a fall or injury. More importantly, they're sometimes your body's way of warning you that a major stroke could be coming soon. The danger with this particular sign is that it feels so minor in the moment. You might rub your hand, stretch your arm, or shake your leg, and if the feeling goes away, you move on. But if it happens again, or if it's accompanied by fatigue, confusion, or dizziness, you need to take it seriously. Your nervous system doesn't throw out random signals for no reason. There's always something behind it, and when the cause is a temporary lack of blood to the brain, Ignoring it could be a costly mistake. Mini strokes are quiet. They don't always show up like the big, dramatic strokes we see on TV. Sometimes they arrive in whispers, tingles in your fingers, warmth in your face, numbness in your toes. These moments don't need to create fear, but they should inspire awareness. Because the more you notice them, the faster you can act. And when it comes to strokes, fast action can mean everything. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 8 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. For any final thoughts, now that we've walked through these 8 often overlooked signs of a mini stroke, I want to pause with you here, not to scare you, but to encourage you. Think about the moments we've talked about. A hand that suddenly goes numb, a tongue that stumbles over a simple word, a flash of dizziness in the middle of a normal day. These are the kinds of things many of us have experienced and brushed aside. But what if just once, instead of ignoring it, you stopped and paid attention? You see, mini strokes don't make grand entrances. They don't always come with collapsing or emergency sirens. They slip in quietly, disguised as small inconveniences or odd sensations. But they're not small. They are your body's warning system, and they are asking for you to listen. The real power you hold as you grow older is the ability to recognize these signs and take them seriously, not because you're fragile, but because you're wise enough to know that prevention is strength. Many seniors believe that if a symptom goes away, it must not be serious. But with mini strokes, that thinking is exactly what puts people at risk. These episodes come and go quickly, often without leaving a trace. But the damage they prevent, if caught in time, can be life-changing. By paying attention to what your body's trying to tell you, you give yourself a chance to step in before something permanent takes hold. And maybe even more importantly, your example could save someone else. A spouse, a friend, a neighbor. You never know who might be quietly struggling with the same symptoms and too afraid or unsure to speak up. When you share your story, your awareness, or your decision to get checked, you make it safer for others to do the same. So let me ask you, which of these signs have you noticed before? And did you take them seriously? Was it just once, or has it happened more than once? Sometimes all it takes is one moment of reflection to turn everything around. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.